In the hills of Tennessee, there are classic cruisers, muscle cars to put the top down and take a long cruise, and a few pieces of eye candy, and something extra wicked. This is Dream Rides. Welcome to Dream Rides. We're in the hills of Pigeon Forge, Tennessee for the shades of the past. There are all kinds of cars this year with unique designs and one-off customs. And there are few more classy than this 31 Chevy.
I brought this automobile home on a trailer in pieces, and my wife just kind of shook her head and walked right back in the house when she seen it. Yeah. So that's how you find these cars. You totally renovate them. It had a lot of rust on it, so I had to replace some of the parts on it, and it brought it up from where it was, where it is now. And we've probably worked on it for about 15 years. That's when I've had it. Yeah, and then when I retired, I really went to work on it full time so I could get it finished. The inside of this automobile is wood frame. Doors are wood and the metal over the wood. It's nailed with the 1-inch stainless steel nails all around it. Chevrolet at that particular time and year rotted away and rusted away more so than the Ford did. And that's the reason there's more Fords than there are Chevrolet. It's just hard to find a 1930s Chevrolet. The color code and the colors were my wife's idea, and we just put it together, sat down and put it together one night and said that's the way we're going to do it. We drive it a lot, and every show we go to, we drive it. We don't trade it. Louisville and either down here, we've been to both of those, and several meets there around town, close around town we've driven to, so we don't trailer it, we just drive it and have fun with it.
It's a 1935 Packard Coupe Convertible is the original name, and it's a 120 model. Yeah. The car was hardly restorable. It was rusted, sat out behind a guy's shop for about 25 years. You could hardly tell it was a Packard, it was so rusted. A lot of body rot, and all the wood in the inside was gone when we got the car. Hershey, Pennsylvania, over a 10-year period of time, and find parts little by little, and friends of friends and contacts you make along the way, and that's the way you find the parts you need. There are still Packard parts available if you search enough. There's some dealers that sell parts now, they're original or reproductions, but originals are pretty much what you have to find on a Packard. Probably the hardest part was the body work. It was far more work and sheet metal than we'd ever planned to do. It was a 10-year period of time that we worked on the car to restore it. Got a Chevy 350, 300 horse crate motor, GMC crate motor. Runs a 4-barrel carburetor, double block carburetor. Pretty straightforward. It's old school restoration, but it's still cool in today's environment. We've got air conditioning, vintage air on it. It'll freeze you out. We've got power steering, tilt wheels, cruise control, turn signals, all the things you would expect. The front end is a Mustang 2 suspension, so it rides and drives well with the power steering on it. Paint is a custom color. It's kind of a combination of an old 57 Chevy color with a little more blue tint in it. And it's a weird color. It's not a metallic, it's not a pearl. It's kind of old school, but it does change color with light. And so it's a baby blue in the hot sun, and it turns to more of a turquoise in the darker shades. Very interesting color. Well, it has a back seat in it, actually. There's room enough for your grandkids. That's about all you can get in it. That makes it the coupe model, and then the convertible, of course, the convertible top. Top does lay down. I've got it up right now. It shows better, I think, with the top up than down because you cover the back seat when you put the top down. As my wife calls it, she says this is the vintage movie star car. And, you know, the car has not been chopped. That's the way the windshield is on it. So it's a very low top, low car. People just don't see this car. When I take it to car shows, again, you don't see it, you know. So it draws a lot of attention. Packard had some fantastic styling in the early 30s, 34, 36 styling was similar with the sweeping fenders and all. So it's a real head turner. We drive it whenever we can. We haven't had any long trips, but we might go 100, 200 miles, you know, in it at a time, something like that. Nothing cross country yet, but we might do that one day. So it's a comfortable car to drive.
Coming up, we'll bring you some classic muscle. Stay with us. This edition of Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products, is being brought to you by ARP, the world leader in fastener technology. Original Parts Group, the world's largest source for GMA body parts and accessories. And by Steel Rubber, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Welcome back to Dream Rides from Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Up next is a rare Plymouth.
I bought it in 1971. I've owned it ever since. Total restoration, off, body off, rotisserie restoration. Took it all the way down, back up. Took about 2.5 years. Disassembling, putting it back, make sure you had it all together right. That was the hard part. And then some parts I had to find, some of mine was sort of old and I had to find them. That was hard. It's my broadcast sheet for the car, and I found it in the back seat on the right side. And it details every option that was on the car, like these elastic bumpers here, or the gear that was under it, top transmission, all that. 340, 6-pack, 4-speed manual transmission. It has 391 gear under it, and all that's from the factory like it was.
All original. 1957 Corvette Chevrolet. 283 fuel injected, 250 horse. First year for an optional 4-speed transmission, which that has. I can tell you it's rare. I mean, they're few and far between. Venetian red. It looks orange, but it's a Venetian red. The owner is Steve West from Marysville, Tennessee. He's a friend of mine, Steve West, and he happened to go to class reunion tonight, so he asked me to take care of the car for him. And so I did that. And I didn't know I was going to be on TV, but I guess that's fine. It's been restored. The car's been restored. Steve didn't do it, but it has been restored. The car's been, but it's nothing's changed on it. Everything's all original: frame, chassis, motor, wheels, hubcaps, interior. Everything's all original, like it was in '57. Probably actually better. He is the 4th generation car dealer, Chevy car dealer from Knoxville, Tennessee, Maryville, Tennessee. So he has several cars. He's got 62 convertibles and 57 Chevys, and they got this 57 Chevy a few months ago, I guess, Corvette. So.
Well, I just started with the R. Morrison chassis, and what we do on these chassis cars is cut the whole floorboard out of the car, channel the car down 4 inches over the frame, then build a new floor. Of course, I put all new sheet metal on the car. It needed quarter panels, and every piece of the car has been replaced except the top. It's got a LS6 454 small block crate motor in it. It's got a 6-speed Tremec transmission. It's got a 457 9-inch Ford rear end under it. Billet specialty wheels, Michelin tires, of course leather interior. I just used Honda Prelude bucket seat, 89 Honda Prelude bucket seats, and there's a local boy here close to town that does leather upholstery, and I took it to him. He did all the interior. I took the vent window out of the car, and I had to make my own drip rail molding by hand and stuff. That was the most big body change we did on the car. The rest of the car is more or less like it's supposed to be, but the modification, the hard part was taking the vent window out and making my own drip rail molding. It's great, rides great, runs real good. Rides really, those Morrison chassis 4 coilover are really way to go. They're a little bit expensive, but in the long run, as far as you ride, that's the best way to go. And it gives you the stance you need and gets it down low.
Something wicked this way comes next on Dream Rides. find ghosts here in the hills of Tennessee, and they drove a 1901 Vicky.
Coming to me in the night when I sleep on it, do all kind of stuff. Just before I know it, I'm creative by thinking of something else, and then I'll see something, I'll make something out of it. So I just sort of go from there, because it took a long time to make, and I made a lot of stuff. You could see, you know. The paint job took forever because I was going to do it several different ways, and then I'd finally just let the car paint itself. So, well, what I got on the front here is I got some old sickle blade spikes that comes on a sickle blade, is what they are. Then I got some old bullhorns on the front there for the bottom teeth. And I just sort of went from there and then went into the engine deal, the radiator deal. Here I got a water spigot on the side. When you pop a cap, a little brass water spigot, and it comes out the liquor coil of it, and took an old bedpan and turned it over and made an air breather out of it. And so it's just sort of unusual. And then I got the devil's fork on the front. Sort of just one thing leads into another as you go. I just sort of thought, well, the scene I started doing with a picture and the stuff on it, I thought, well, I'll just make this the Devil's Ride. Yeah, I want to do the spikes that way to sort of make it look more creative as far as the devil scene or whatever. Halloween look, you might say, too, or something, you know. And I put like the dog collar around the front of the cow and then on the radiator to match, and done the valve covers and the breather. And it just sort of all started coming in together, and it don't look too shabby to me. It just sort of blends in. Well, the interior was a long story. I started off with a seed fork. And if you know what a seed fork is, we used to use them in the chicken house years ago to spread shavings in the chicken house. It was a big old wide fork. Well, I made the seats out of them. Well, I said I want a backbone. I made the backbone of the seat like a rib cage, like a skeleton. And you're sitting in that pitchfork, which is a seat fork. Well, I made a cushion seat for it to ride in, sort of be a little more comfortable. And then in the back seat of it, I made it out of rake and all of it's out of rebar, and I polished it, cleared it, done everything you can do to make it look good. And it really fits good because I had it shaved to a guy's back. I got him to get in and out of it all the time when I was making it, forming it, you know. And I done the headliner out of it too, and put mesh in. I put crushed red velvet in between it, so it's like you might say the blood look or whatever. You got to have the blood in there for all that, you know, for your red. Yeah, and under the car, I made my frame myself, put it all on a table and made it up, cut everything myself, just out of just raw steel. Then I painted it, then I done the oil pan and all that stuff, painted it like a graveyard scene. All that looks really pretty cool, the transmission and the frame underneath. I've got like little things on the frame under the car. The axle's painted like ripped paper, designs in it, the drive shaft the same way. Just run it all the way through the back. And when I done all my scenes and my paint job, I done this like a ripped open design. And so when I did, I said, well, I'm gonna use that green color in the background. So then after I done that, I decided, well, I'm gonna put pictures in it so it looks like it's ripped open and there's something in it. So I put something in everything there, and then I had to start adding stuff to it. So I had to add the lighting into it and stuff like that to sort of make it blend. You never know this stuff until you just start doing it. It's really hard because you'll walk around these places, swap meets, and see something, you say, I can do something with that. It's like I got a boat prop on as a fan on the side of my motor for an extra fan that really works and it cools good, but I still got electric water pump too and all that, and electric fan and all the moonshine stuff on it too. But it all works. I made everything work, not just for look.
It's a 1952 Nash Rambler station wagon. Of course, it's highly modified. It has a Corvette engine, a 700 R4, which is a 4-speed overdrive transmission, and a Curry 9-inch Ford rear end. And it's all sitting on an Art Morrison tube chassis, all leather interior, full roll cage, tinted windows. It's all the modern conveniences, air conditioning. It's just a wonderful driving, nice riding, economical station wagon to go get groceries in. The Nashes are very rare. It's hard to find them, especially ones that are left in good condition to even start to repair or modify. There is a Nash graveyard here in Tennessee, which is in Blunt, Tennessee, and he has about 60 Nashes. They're rare, they're hard to find. If you find one, buy it, because you're just not going to find a nice one. You've got to start out with what you got and try to make it better. It was in very nice condition. It's a California car. The guy was a surfer and had a surfboard on it. The whole surfer image with the long hair and all that. Hey dude, what's up? And you know, so he kept it in pretty nice shape. It was this color. It's called surf green, I guess because he was a surfer. But it's actually a very close to a stock original Nash color. And the wood grain that was also stock, although they used a darker wood grain than what this has. This is a maple color. We removed the front bumpers and what we call rolled the pants front and rear, lowered it. That's pretty much it. Other than that, it's a stock body. Oh, of course, it's got Mercedes-Benz headlights in it too, so that's modified. Other than that, it's stock. We would call it pro touring because you can actually go for long trips in the car. So it's more of a touring car than a pro street car. It does have big back tires and it does have a 411 positive traction rear end, but with the overdrive transmission, it'll cruise down the road about 70, 75 miles an hour at about 2,200 RPM. So it gets good gas mileage. It's very comfortable to drive.
Next on Dream Rides, we showcase a few classics from a bygone era. This edition of Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products, is being brought to you by Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977. Evapo Rust, super safe rust remover. And by Steel Rubber, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Not even the rain could stop this Woody, a one-of-a-kind creation.
The car came to me as a 1950 Mercury four-door car, and I cut it off from the cowl and used from the cowl forward. The complete car from the windshield back has been custom built, all sheet metal. It had to be formed, fitted for this one car. All the chrome work had to be built to this car, for this car, and then have chrome. All the wood came to me as rough cut lumber. I milled it all at the house for this car. I've got probably 350 hours in the car. I started on it in January of this year, had it ready for the Street Run Nationals in May of this year. It's built to match the Hot Wheels toy concept car that came out in 1999. It's already made Street Scene magazine. Under the hood is a Crate 350 Chevrolet engine chromed out with a 350 turbo transmission hooked to it. The interior sort of came together as part of the station wagon. I made the front seat from the original four-door work, and then I made a custom-built rear seat that folds down to let the cargo area be extended to the front. The actual front windshield is not chopped, but the way the roof was designed to fit this car to match the toy, it looks chopped. Everybody's amazed at what it looks like and how it can be built that quick a time, and they've never seen anything like it, but simply because it's a one-off car. I like the design of the car, and I've always worked on Woodies and or Mercuries, and I figured I'd just build me one like the toy. The hardest thing about the build was probably going to be the roof line, trying to get it to where I needed it to be and how I needed it to look to match the toy. I would probably build another one similar, but not exactly. It was a lot of work, a lot of woodwork and a lot of metal work. It was just too hard of work to do it, and it took too long.
This car is a 1939 Ford Woody station wagon. I've wanted one for 20 or 30 years. An NSRA show in Louisville about 25 years ago, they gave one away. And ever since I saw that, I just kind of wanted one. I found this one on the internet. A guy out in Eugene, Oregon built it. His name is Dick Martin. This is the 7th one he's built. He took the front end out of a 39 Ford sedan, bought an aftermarket TCI frame, and just went from there. He's a retired industrial arts teacher, and he did everything but the upholstery. People asked me if I built it. I said, no, I wrote the check. A 350 Chevrolet performance engine. It's 350 horsepower with a bow cam. It's a 350 Chevrolet Ramjet. It's got power steering, power brakes, cruise, telescoping tilt steering wheel, 6 CD player under the seat. The interior is made out of Italian leather. The guy that built it, Dick Martin, did everything but the upholstery. The wood is from Vermont, I believe, from the Northeast. It drives like a dream. I've added some things to it since I bought it. I put the Nerf bars in the front, Harley Davidson mirrors on it. It didn't have power steering. I put that on, and it's something I've always wanted, and I really enjoy driving it.
It's a 1937 Lincoln Zephyr coupe. As far as the body-wise itself, it's all steel. The car has not been chopped in any way or modified. Of course, the door handles have been removed, trunk handles, bumpers. The headlights are the original style headlights, but the tail lights have been removed. And of course, all the interior's been custom done with a wooden dash and of course the leather two-tone interior. But as far as body-wise, it's still all steel, come originally from a factory with fender skirts. That was a factory part of the car. Cleaned it up by taking the door handles off and using the remote poppers. Still got the original hood ornament and stuff to that nature. Of course, I like chrome. But anyways, as far as everything else on the car is basically the way it was stock, just by removing the tail lights and bumpers. But this was the first year for a coupe in 37 for Lincoln. Interior's been fully customized. It's made out of curly maple gloss lacquer that's been put over top to protect it, but it's handmade, and the seats are out of Cadillac, been upholstered leather, two-toned with the door panel in a swoosh armrest to sort of match the car theme, I guess you would say, by aerodynamics. It's powered by all Ford. It's got a 5.4 liter Ford Lightning truck motor with a blower laying on top. So it'll cruise on down the road. It's painted with PPG orange, and then the bottom's a champagne metallic. But both have a metallic in it, and of course it's broke up with a pinstripe. Try to keep it clean. Don't want it to stand out too much, but just to sort of clean it up with keep the paint lines clean. It's got good body lines to use to break up the two-tone colors. I personally had the car 6 years. It took a year, started last November, and this is our first show with the car. So I've been almost a year in the restoration period. Now when I bought the car, it was run, driving, already set up with the Ford Lightning truck motor. Done some cosmetic features, the interior and the paint work. In the last year. Drove it a few years to save up for the pocketbook to afford the paint job.
That's all the time we have on Dream Rides. Thanks for watching. Join us next time where we showcase more crazy and classic creations from shades of the past in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. See you then.